Misfit Hippie is back. What's up, Misfit Hippie?
Hey Jay, can you hear me?
I can. What's up?
So, I have a question regarding. Oh boy, I had a few questions.
Okay.
Simulation theory. So, if you were arguing with someone, or you were tasked with debating someone who is seriously pushing the idea that we live in a simulation, how would you attack that? How would you go about that?
Well, I mean, it's right. So it's very similar to like the ancient Far Eastern ideas of Maya, right? That reality is ultimately some form of like an illusion or a dream or something like that. So one easy way that you can critique it is to say, well, if everything in my experience is in some way illusory or a simulation, then doesn't it stand to reason that my coming to know that it's a simulation or an illusion is also part of the simulation or an illusion? So it would kind of be self-defeating just on its face. Beyond that, to be able to state that everything is a simulation, I think that would run into problems with universal claims. Oh, okay, well, how do you have access to universal states of affairs to be able to say that, quote, everything is a simulation? Beyond that, it seems to presuppose that there's some criteria of non-simulation that you can set it off against or compare it to, right? So in other words, what's the justification for the criterion of simulated reality versus non-simulated reality? If everything that we know is a simulation, there's really no way to justify or give a grounding for the claim that everything is a simulation except for the things not in the simulation. Okay, but so what is the reality then that you're comparing it to?
Right. The laws of logic you're using to even make the argument.
Exactly. Wouldn't they be? They would just be part of the simulation. So they're also kind of they're de facto illusory in that way. So I think those are pretty solid way. I don't see how. And by the way, simulated by who?
Said well, in this simulation, maybe some people could be granted gnosis about the simulation and bring that awareness to other people.
Okay, I mean that's a claim, but what is how do we go about? What are the good reasons to believe that? Right, so they can say that, but we need good reasons for why we should believe that, not just sort of mystical speculations. So really, the simulation theory is just like another version of Platonism or ancient Maya philosophy or something like that. So you could also probably make critiques in terms of. I lost my train of thought. I had another criticism you could make of that view.
Well, the other one you could do is that a good loving God wouldn't allow something like that to be. Be deceived on such a universal level.
Right, no deceiving demon like Descartes.
Like Descartes, yeah. And also you might.
So once you establish the transcendental argument for the existence of God, somewhat like Descartes, you would say that, well, look, either you just resort to absolute silence because of the skepticism that you just had to go into, or you say that if anything's going to be known at all, then it'll be known because of the transcendental argument for the existence of God, and God wouldn't allow for something like that to happen.
Yeah, right on.
Oh, I also, I'm not positive on this one, but I'm just sort of thinking it out loud. You might critique it on the grounds that simulation theory, in my view, is kind of just a way to bring telos back into philosophy. So it's kind of like, the world, now that we have advanced technology and now that we have computers that kind of in a profound way simulate the world, people fall into simulation theory thinking that because of the profundity and complexity of computers, it's got to be some kind of key way into understanding the nature of reality. And my point would be at that. So to me, that looks like, let's bring telos back into our worldview. But let's not have telos from a god. Let's have telos from what? Who? The programmers of the simulation? Is that aliens? What is that? Who is that? So we're back at step one of okay, so now give me an account for telos and for who are the programmers of the simulation, and how do you know about that? Because to say it's a simulation is a kind of analogy to computers, video games, and computers and video games have a designer. Okay. And we all know that, we can verify that, but you're saying that all of reality is like a computer game. So tell me about the designer. Right. And what is the justification for teleology in this position?
Yeah, and are they in a simulation too? And then it goes back into regression. Yeah.
Well, or you could ask that question and say, oh, well, how do you know they're excluded from being in the simulation? Yeah, right. you could ask it that way.
Yeah. Can I ask one more question? Or
yeah, sure. No, go ahead.
Okay. So, I'm not asking for like churches. I know there's not like a dogma about this per se, but asking your personal opinion regarding technology. It's kind of my thought about it is we don't think technology is inherently good or evil. It depends on the way that you use it. And God gave us minds to be able to like discern the laws of nature that allow us to use them, to manipulate them, to do work in the world, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's not inherently bad, and it enables, like, for what we're doing right now, communication across huge expanses of space, etc. But then there's obvious downsides to it that I don't think really need to be stated. But do you think it is inherently evil or good in some way? What's your take on that?
Well, I think our doctrine of creation precludes us from saying anything is inherently evil. I mean, to state that anything is inherently evil would be some form of Manichaeanism. So, no, nothing is inherently evil, but the evil comes in with the misuse of it. So, no, there's nothing wrong with computers and the internet, any of that stuff. I mean, unless you want to be a Manichaean. So,
yeah, I guess I could see some people saying like, well, like the very act of creating technology is like a prideful human act to try to like overcome the restrictions of nature that God placed on us. But I don't really think that pans out, because it's like, where do you arbitrarily draw the line to say like,
well,
okay,
so building an ark involves engineering and technology. So
that's right. Yeah, that's right. Okay.
All right.
Well, appreciate your time.
Yeah, good questions.